Well, finally, at last, there's somebody on BitChute that is willing to converse with me in a higher level than brute beasts, like some that have been trying to communicate with me, and all they do is repeat the same garbage that the forefathers repeated concerning the Jews, belittling the Jews, mocking, scoffing at the Jews, not knowing that those who are downtrodden today will be raised up tomorrow. Those that are downtrodden today will enter into the kingdom of Jehovah. So I'm going to read Shug's writings here, and I'm going to give him some are my opinions, and some are places in Scripture that can answer some questions here. But first, and I don't want to be argumentative, but it is so important to get things right. Now, I'm not going to strain at a gnat and swallow a camel here, but this is very, very important. The Scriptures in numerous places say that they that call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Actually, that's not what it says. That's what King James Version and other versions claim it says. So, the one that I go to the most is in Joel 2. It is very, very important. What's going on here? Suddenly my internet is getting sketchy. Alright. So the Strong's pulls up. Where is it? There it is. And it is very important to use Strong's concordance. Unfortunately, that is probably the only English language Bible help available that gets us remotely close to the truth. So the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance needs to be closer to you than even your own wife. Alright? So in each and every case where it says, then will the Lord, what does it say in Hebrew? It says Jehovah. Okay? Will be jealous for his land and pity his people, not the Lord. It does not say the Lord. I'm not trying to be hard to get along with here, but let's read the Scripture correctly. Because if we learn to use Strong's Concordance is not 100% accurate, but it is close. And in this case, concerning the name, it is 100% accurate. Now, speaking of that particular scripture that you pointed out, it's right here. Now, I have to preface this with things that are written, like for instance in verse 30, I will show a portent in the sky. And the word in Hebrew is mofaith. It means portent, a sign in the sky, in the shamayim or shamayim, okay? And in the earth, on the land, blood and fire, and not pillars, no. Timara, or Timara, palm-like columns of smoke. Now, I'll give myself as an example to you. I had read and used the Strong's Concordance religiously, okay? And even to this day, it is not close enough to me, okay? Because up until about a month ago, I did not know that the columns of smoke was nukes. Now, palm-like columns of smoke, well, with blood in the sky and in the earth and fire. Well, all you have to do is look at this. Nuke explosion. Alright? Blood in the sky, blood in the earth, palm-like column of smoke, and what do you see? Now, I'm not saying that a volcano does not do this. What I'm saying is that is very eerie. And when you read Haggai 2, you know that it means nukes. Now, so he says, so his name is very important. So don't call him the Lord. Call him by his name. Because it is written right here in Joel 2. And it shall come to pass, the sun shall turn in darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of who? Jehovah come. It shall come to pass, or it just says here, Korah. Now, King James Version put a whole bunch of words where one word belongs, Korah. And it means those who proclaim the name, Shem, Jehovah, shall slip away. So, don't replace the name Jehovah with the Lord. Now, I know that the Jews are afraid to use that name out of fear that they're going to take his name in vain. If you are upright in spirit, you're not going to do that. Okay? You're going to have respect for that name. You're not going to take it in vain. So, now I want to get to the next part of what you're talking about. So his name is very important for me. My greatest motivation is knowing my Father by his name is because I love him. Now, while taking Hebrew class years ago, I asked the teacher how he thought the Father's name should be pronounced. We talked about our Redeemer's name as well. There are no J's in Hebrew. Yes, in fact, there were no J's in any other language either until about the 1600s. And I believe I believe it was the 1600s. I know that before the 1600s, the name Jesus, or Jesus as they called it, actually was spelled X-E-S-U-S, and X-E-S is 666. Now, I've done several videos about that if you want to go back and look at it, but I don't really have time today. I want to get into something that you said in this next paragraph right here. And I don't know how many of my videos you have watched. I'm thinking that you just started recently. about 6 months ago, I believe it was, somewhere around there, I had over and over and over again gone over the Juden Sal and what the Christians did. And I try to impress upon everyone that it wasn't just the Jews that they were slandering, but it was the Shem Ha Mephoresh. Okay? What is that? We'll get to that in a second. All right. I thank him for all he has done for me and for what he has promised. When I discovered that they intentionally hid his name so people could not know it, it enraged me. Wait till you find out what they, the Christians, did to his name. And this is the reason why like you say right here, I love your zeal and your emotional plea to folks who listen to your presentation of biblical facts and history, hoping that the listeners will hear and believe. I'm with you. Without a preacher, how will they hear? And hearing begets believing. For some anyway. Real believers read and heed Romans 12 and verse 2. Our minds need to be renewed with truth so we then can be transformed. Christianity in its foundation hates the truth. Hated the truth. So we're going to go ahead and go to the Judensal. Alright? Now, you may not be aware of this. I don't know how old you are or how much you have studied about the Christian religion. So Judensal, German for Jews' Sal, is a folk art image of Jews in obscene contact with a large sow, in which Judaism is an unclean animal. That appeared during the 13th century in Germany and some other European countries. Its popularity lasted for over 600 years. Now, Paul said that the only thing he disagreed with the Jews was concerning the resurrection. If I remember correctly, I could Google that, I suppose. Maybe I'm wording it wrong. Should be, I'll probably hit upon it later. All right. So I want to go back to the Judensal here. The Jewish prohibition against eating pork comes from Torah in the book of Leviticus, chapter 11, verses 2 through 8. The arrangement of the Jews surrounding suckling and having intercourse with the animal, this is the Judensal. This is what was in church pews, on their walls, outside. But it got much, much worse. Much worse. The animal, sometimes regarded as a devil, is a mockery of Judaism. The image appears in the Middle Ages, mostly in carvings on church or cathedral walls, often outside where it could be seen from the street, for example at Wittenberg and Regensburg, but also in other forms. The earliest appearance seems to have been in the underside of a wooden choir stall seat in Cologne Cathedral. I thought it was going to pull up, but it didn't. Dating to about 1210. So that means the Catholics were the first ones who started this outrageous blasphemy. Okay? The earliest example in the stone dates to ca. 1230, and it is located in the cloister of the cathedral at Brandenburg. In about 1470, the image appeared in a woodcut form, and thereafter it was often copied in popular prints, often with anti-Semitic commentary. A wall painted in the bridge tower of Frankfurt am Main, constructed between 1475 and 1507 near the gateway to the Jewish ghetto, and demolished in 1801, was an especially notorious example, including a scene of a ritual murder of Simon of Trent. The city of Wittenberg contains a Judensaal from 1305 on the facade of the Stadtkirche, the church where Martin Luther preached. As you know, Martin Luther is the father of all Protestantism. It portrays a rabbi who looks under the sow's tail and other Jews drinking from its tits. An inscription reads, you see what? Please look at this carefully. Rabbini Shem Ha-Meforesh. And as quoted, gibberish which presumably bastardizes Shem Ha-Meforesh. Now, Shem means name, and Ha-Meforesh means the explicit. So, the explicit name. What is the explicit name? Yehovah Elohim. Listen carefully. The sculpture is one of the last remaining examples in Germany of medieval Jew baiting. In 1988, on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the Kristallnacht, debate sprung up about the monument, which resulted in the addition of another sculpture recognizing that during the Holocaust 6 million Jews were murdered under the sign of the cross. So this next sculpture is actually condemning Christianity for the murder of the Jews, convicting them for the murder of the Jews. Okay? Now, Martin Luther, the father of Protestantism, where all Protestants have proceeded from, he wrote a book called Vom Shem Ha-Meforesh. In this book, Luther comments on the Judensaal sculpture at Wittenberg, echoing the anti-Semitism of the image and locating the Talmud in the sow's bowels. Here in our church, and I quote Martin Luther, a sow is sculpted in stone. Young pigs and Jews lie suckling under her. Behind the sow, a rabbi is bent over the sow, lifting up her right leg, holding her tail high, and looking intensely under her tail, into which her Talmud, as though he were reading something acutely extraordinary. And then he says this. This, what he said, is blasphemy. See, they weren't satisfied with hiding his name. No, they went further than hiding his name. And in all those videos that I did, I told my audience that I am putting myself in mortal danger for telling you this. but I got no choice. And he said, and I quote, which is certainly where they get their explicit name, and that name being Jehovah. You see what Martin Luther did. This is the reason why they use the name God. This is the reason why they use the term the Lord. Because they hate the name, the explicit name. And they claim that the Jews find that name in the bowels of a sow. That right there. There needs to be no more reason why Christianity is now condemned. That one right there is enough. So what I'm getting at by addressing this particular paragraph, when I discovered that they intentionally hid his name so that people could not know it, it enraged me. How do you feel now knowing that they not only hid his name, but the Christians claim that his name comes from the bowels of a sow? Why am I telling you this? The reason why I'm telling you this, because you need to know how vile Christianity is. How foul, how blasphemous it is. And what that will do is that will give you more incentive to pull yourself away from it. For me, it didn't give me more incentive. It gave me even more excuse. I wanted an excuse to pull away, further away from Christianity, and that was all I needed. Now, once you know their replacement theology bastardized the Shem HaMephoresh, the explicit name, then you know how to be transformed. As you say here. And yes, you're absolutely right. The problem is here that there are too many people who are full of pride. They succumb to societal and familial peer pressures. Well, and you're absolutely right about that too. I wouldn't call myself the black sheep of the family because of my mother and father. My mother and father did not view me as the black sheep of the family. But certain other members of the family certainly did. So I know all about this familial pressure. But I was so different from everybody else when I was in school. It's not that I wouldn't succumb to peer pressure. It is myself and the other students were so far apart from each other, there was no way to conform to them. It just wasn't possible. So, and because of the fact that my mom and dad did not take me to Sunday church and all that garbage, that we did not do Xmas and Easter and all of that, it made it easier for me to conform to Jehovah because I was already a good distance from the world. Um, Now you said we need to preach the word knowing that it will not return void. Um, the Holy Spirit, I try to say, Ruach Kodesh, will remind the people who have heard your words and convict them. Well, indeed, people have been convicted, and you can see by some of their remarks. They know and they are convicted, but they are, rather than to change, what they do is spew hatred. In which case, instead of convicting them in the right way, it convicts them for the day of judgment. And when I began doing these videos, I knew full well that I was not going to get a lot of views. I was going to get few. I knew that. I knew that from the get-go. I knew I was going to be railed against, mocked, and I knew that. Didn't come as a shock to me at all. And I, quite frankly, I don't care. But these folks who do these things, all of these words, every idle word is going to be used against them on Judgment Day. So, all right. Now then you had another, I'll just read it. Hey brother, I had a thought. Tell me what you think. The Assyrian Babylonians in something like 605 and 587 BCE took over Jerusalem and the first temple and caused the expulsion of all 12 tribes ultimately from the land. So where did they go? All over the world? If so, that was about 2,600 years ago, and if a generation is, say, about 25 years on the heavy, that was 100 generations ago. So that being said, it seems to me that the 12 tribes of Israel assimilated into most of all the cultures of the world over that time. So my opinion on this is that Jehovah wanted to be known among all the nations, and what better way than to send? No, that's not how it was. I'll finish reading this, and I'm going to show you, because I'm not going to give you my opinion. Okay? There's always an answer in the scripture. Than to send Israel out to live with everyone, so to speak. Furthermore, it also makes sense that many people have Israel genetics due to assimilation. I do not know the answer to that question. But I'm going to start with, but I will have the scriptures that I'm going to show you will hopefully help you resolve some of those questions that you have. Okay? So what is the reason the 12 tribes were scattered? Well, we all know that it was because they quickly turned into idolatry like the Gentiles around them. So Jehovah warned them. They did not listen. I'm talking about the lost 10 tribes now. And so the Assyrians came to take them away. Now, I need to go to a scripture. And we'll go and look up Bill of Divorcement. All right. It would be in one of the prophets. Okay, I'll do it like this and see what comes up. All right, come on, internet. Don't fail on me now. All right. It's in Isaiah, I believe it is. Or is it? This is in Jeremiah. Right. 3. Read in verse 8. Now before I get to verse 8, look at all the high places and see where you have, it says, see where you have violated or have been, and in the ways that you have sat for them, like the Arabians in the wilderness. And you profane the land with your whoredoms and with your wickedness. Therefore, the abundant showers have been withheld. There has been no latter rain, and you had a whore's forehead. Interestingly enough, now so has the church. And you refused to be ashamed. Proclaim to me, Ab, captain of my youth. Will he keep his anger forever? Will he keep it to the end? Behold, he has spoken and has done calamity. Jehovah, not the Lord, but Jehovah, also said in the days of Josiah the king, have you seen that which backsliding Israel has done? She has gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and has played the harlot. And I said that after she done all these things, turn you back to me, but she returned not. And her treacherous sister saw it. Her treacherous sister Yehuda saw it. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and gave her a bill of divorcement. The bill of divorcement came when the Assyrians Now, I find this interesting. Okay? In the days after Jacob and Joseph, the days of Moshe, that the sons of Ham took Israel as slaves. Then in the days of the 10 tribes of Israel of dispersion, it was the sons of Shem which took the people of Israel as slaves. And that included the Jews too, quite frankly, because after all, the Chaldeans, whom Nebuchadnezzar was, took the Jews as well. Now, the Bill of Divorcement. Now, he gave the northern kingdom, Ephraim, the lost 10 tribes, a Bill of Divorcement. What that means is this. Once they received the Bill of Divorcement, they are no longer Israel. They are Gentiles. There's no, but Henry, but wait a minute. Just give me a few minutes and I will show you something. So the Jews today, they are a group of people where Yehuda, the tribe of Yehuda, is the head of. So now what we need to do is we need to go to Ezekiel. All right? Two sticks. Hold on. Stick of Joseph? We'll just go stick of Judah. Yeah, Ezekiel 37. It's necessary for me to go through this. Then I need to go to Hosea. Okay? Then I need to go to Yoel 3. Now, it is also necessary for me to explain the vision because the Christians have perverted this vision. And the hand of not the Lord, but Jehovah, was upon me and carried me away into the spirit of Jehovah and set me in the midst of the valley which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And there were very many in the open valley, and they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, Adonai, or Adonai, Yehovah, you know. Again he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O you dry bones, hear the word of, once again, Jehovah. Now, I will not in any way disrespect that name by putting another name in its stead, neither will I take that name in vain. Says Adonai, Yehovah, these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into, and you shall live. Now let's look at the word here, to live. All right. Kaya means to live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live, and you shall know Jehovah. It is not you shall know I am the Lord. No. You shall know Jehovah. So I prophesied as commanded, and I prophesied, and there was a noise, and behold, a great shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, and lo, the sinews of the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them about, but there was no breath in them. And he said unto me, Speak to the wind, prophesy, Nabal, son of man, and say to the wind, Thus saith Adonai Yehovah, come from the four winds, O breath. And that is very, very important. Where it says, come from the four winds, this is talking about the gathering of all Israel from the four winds. It's not what the preachers told you. Everything the preachers have told you about Ezekiel 37 is false. You got to start over. Got to start from scratch. So, this is talking about gathering all Israel from the four winds, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. And I'll show you And then it says, the vision explained, you'll see it. So I prophesied as he commanded, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army. And he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole, or are the house, the Baith of Israel. They say, and they're out there cast away. They have been divorced from Jehovah. No longer Israel. They say, our bones are dry, our hope is lost, and we perished. We are cut, divided from our homeland. We are divided. Prophesy and say unto them, thus saith Jehovah, or Adonai Elohim. Look, my people, I will open your graves. What are their graves? And cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. The Christians don't believe this. And you shall know Jehovah when I open your graves. What are their graves, O my people, and bring you up out of your graves? He says it 3 times. What are those graves? And I will put my ruach in you, and you shall live. And I shall place you in your own land, not in heaven. And then you shall know Jehovah has spoken and performed it, says Jehovah. Now, once again, what are those graves? The word of Jehovah came unto me again, saying, Moreover, you, son of man, take you one stick, and write upon it for Judah and the children of Israel and his companions. In other words, there were still members of all the 12 tribes with the house of Judah at that time. But when the restoration occurs, see, even the people of Judah don't believe that the lost 10 tribes under Samaria will be brought back. They believe they now represent the lost 12 tribes, and they do in a sense, only in one sense. And the children of Israel his companions, for Judah and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim. And of course, Samaria was in the land of Ephraim. And that was the capital of the 10 tribes who went astray. And for all the whole house of Israel, his companions. And join them to another into one stick, and they shall become one in your hand. And when the children of your people shall speak unto you, saying, will you not show us what this means? They still don't know what it means. Say unto them, Adonai Jehovah will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribe of Israel his fellows, and will put them with the stick of Yehuda, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And the sticks whereupon you write shall be in your hand before their eyes. And you shall say unto them, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the Gentiles. Those are the graves. From among the Gentiles, where they were gone, and will gather them on every side, north, south, east, and west, the four winds. You get it? On every side. And bring them into their own land, and I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king unto them all, and they shall be no more two, neither shall they be divided any more at all, neither shall they defile themselves any more with idols, nor their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them from out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned. And I will cleanse them, and so they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim. And it should read Ben David. I've shown in the past other Hebrew Bibles where it says, Ben David, my servant, shall be king, and they shall have one shepherd. And they will walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I gave to Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, they and their children and their children's children, into futurity. And my servant Ben David shall be their prince for futurity. And I will make a covenant of peace with them. And you hear the Christians today talk about the covenant of peace that is coming is going to be a false peace. So you see, the Christians have utterly, everyone who calls himself a Christian has utterly rejected the Shem HaMeforesh, the explicit name. He's going to make with them a covenant of peace, and it shall be an everlasting covenant with them. And he will set them back in their own land, and multiply them, and set my sanctuary in the midst of them forever. My tabernacle shall also be with them. I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the Gentiles shall know that Jehovah will sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So, once again, it is absolutely necessary to get the timing. When we go to Romans 11. Romans 11 is the kryptonite of all Christianity. They will not read it. I challenge any Christian preacher to debate me on Romans 11. None of them will. They'll never do it. Because they will be easily destroyed with the truth. Even an unlearned, backwoods hillbilly will destroy them with the truth in Romans 11. I say then, has Jehovah cast away his people? Jehovah forbid. For I am also an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Jehovah has not cast away his people whom he foreknew. Don't you know what the scripture says of Eliah? How he made intercession to Jehovah against Israel, saying, they have killed the prophets and digged down your altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. But what was the answer of Jehovah unto them? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Now, I need to stop right here because the thought just came into my head. I can't remember what it was, but it's critically important. But it slipped my mind. Even so, then, at this present time, there's also a remnant according to the election of grace. Okay? Now, that's what I wanted to do. I need to go to Hosea. Okay? What then? Israel has not obtained that which he seeks, but the election has still obtained it. And the rest were blinded. All right? According as is written in Psalm 62? Jehovah has given them a spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear today. David said, 69 verse 22, let their table be made a snare and a trap and a stumbling block and a recompense unto them. But Paul said the same thing in 1 Thessalonians 5 and verse 3 concerning the Gentiles. The Gentiles didn't get the message. He used this quote in Psalm 69 verse 22, I believe it is. And let their eyes be darkened that they may see, and bow their back always. Have they stumbled that they should fall? Jehovah forbid, but because of their fall, salvation has come to the Gentiles. Now, I have to stop right here, and I'll get here in just a minute. This is critically important. This is the reason why Gentiles were offered salvation. Isaiah 49:6. This is the reason. And it's the only reason. I'll start in verse 1. Listen, you coastlands, and listen to me, you people that are far away. Not the Lord, but Jehovah called me from the womb. He didn't call him before that. From the womb. That destroys Christianity. You got to understand, folks. The Christians, they misinterpreted, and so did the Jews, misinterpreted Yehoshua when he said before Abraham was Hava. He was speaking of his Father. He was in the Father. He was inside the Father. And right here proves it. From the bowels of my mother had he first made mention of my name. And he made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand he hid me, and made me a polished shaft in his quiver he hid me. So for those of you who do not understand what this means, my own son, I have one son. I have only one child. Before his mother conceived, he was in my quiver. Same way here. He was hidden. The angels didn't see him. He was hidden inside the Father. And he said unto me, you are my servant, in whom Israel will be glorified. But I said, I have labored in vain, I have spent my strength for nothing. It's because this sentence. It's because of this sentence right here. I labored in vain, I have spent my strength for nothing. And in vain. Yet surely justice is with Jehovah, and my work with my Elohim. Because he said this. And now, says Jehovah, that formed me from the womb. Now this is a prophecy, folks. Okay? Now says Jehovah that formed me from the womb. He didn't form him before the womb. He formed him from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob back. That was his whole purpose, to bring Jacob back to him, to be the Moshiach. Even though Israel's currently, well, it says, even though Israel is removed, but will be gathered. Weighty and burdensome in the eyes of Jehovah. My Elohim shall be my strength. And Jehovah said, because of this suffering, because he said, I have labored in vain. Jehovah says, oh yeah? Watch this. It is a light thing that you should be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, to restore and preserve, to watch over Israel. I will also give you for a light to the Gentiles, that you may be my Yeshua, salvation. Yeshua means salvation, but his name is Yehoshua, Jehovah's salvation, unto the ends of the earth. Because he felt like it was all in vain, he says, no, my son, it was not all in vain. You're not only going to bring Jacob back to me, but that's a light thing. But you, my servant, are going to raise up the tribes of Jacob and restore the preserve Israel, but I will also give you for a light to the Gentiles, that you be me my Yeshua unto the end of the earth. Listen carefully. Jehovah says, the Redeemer of Israel, the Holy One, to him whom man despised. Well, man not only despised Yehoshua, but the Christians despise also Jehovah. To him whom the Goy abhorred. What? The Goy abhorred Yehoshua? Yes, and here's how they do it. By replacing him with Jesus. You can see by the Shem HaMeforish that they abhorred Jehovah. No question. But they rejected his name and replaced with another name of a foreign idol. They did the same thing with Yehoshua, replacing that name with Jesus. Abhorred. Going from a man despised, the Gentiles, the Goy abhorred, from a servant to rule and have dominion. You see what King James did? That's the reason why you must use Strong's Concordance if you are an English speaker. Now, if you understand Hebrew, if Hebrew is your first or even your second language, blessed are you. Because you don't need to do this. But if you're an English speaker, it is absolutely necessary to use Strong's Concordance, otherwise you will be deceived. Hopelessly deceived. From a servant to one who has dominion. Kings will see and arise, and princes shall bow down. Jehovah is faithful. He's the Holy One of Israel. And he decides. Now, Jehovah says, in an acceptable, in a favorable time, I will hear you in the day of salvation. I will help you. I will preserve you and give you for a covenant of the people to establish the arrets, to cause to inherit the desolate heritages, that you may say to the prisoners, go forth. To them that are in darkness, show yourselves. All right? They shall no longer thirst, neither shall the heat nor the sun smite them, for he will have mercy upon them and lead them to the springs of water, and he will guide them. Just like it says in the book of Revelation. I will continue in Romans 11. Through their stumbling, salvation has come to the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy. Now if the stumbling of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles like we have today. The riches of the Gentiles. Computers, smartphones. We have everything at our disposal to find the truth concerning the Shem HaMephoresh, concerning salvation for Israel. And the Gentiles have rejected it. So this is all going to be taken away from the Gentiles. How much more Israel's fullness? I speak to you Gentiles because I am the apostle of the Gentiles. I may magnify my office. I also, if by any means may provoke any of my flesh, and might save some of them, because in that time it was a time of judgment upon Jerusalem and upon the Jews. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, in my time, as I speak, it is time of judgment upon the Gentiles. Now my YouTube channel, the way I see it is this. I do these YouTube videos for my own conscience sake, so that none of my brothers and sisters or cousins will say, Henry, you knew, why didn't you tell me? I will say, not only did I tell you, I told the whole world. I did it for my conscience sake, because I shall not be accused of withholding the truth. Now, if some of the branches, okay, hold on. Because if the temporary casting away of them be the reconciling of the Gentile world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? We just read that in Ezekiel 37. Now you have the whole context, both of how it's read in Ezekiel 37 and how Paul is interpreting it. Life from the dead is not only resurrection from the dead, but it is also pulling all Israel out of all of these lands. And the vast majority of them are right here in the United States. How do I know? I'll get there. Because if the first fruit is holy, the lump is also holy. That means if Yehoshua is holy, then so is all Israel. And if the root is holy, then so are all the branches. And if some of the branches were broken off, and you being a wild olive were grafted in among them jointly, partaking jointly of the fruit and the fatness of the olive tree. Well, in Paul's days, they were jointly partaking in the root and fatness, but as soon as Paul died, they rejected the truth immediately. Boast not against the branches. They not only boasted against the branches, but they beat the branches, they murdered the branches, they holocausted the branches. Because if you boast, you don't bear the root, but the root bears you. In other words, if you did it to the branches, you have done it to Yehoshua. So when you read Matthew 25, where it talks about, inasmuch as you have done it to the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me, he is speaking about the Jews. Inasmuch as you have done it to the least of these Jews, my brethren. Because boast not against the branches, because if you boast, you do not bear the root, but the root bears you. See, if you boast against the branches, you boast against the root. You will say then the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off. And you now stand by faith, be not high-minded, but fear. For if Jehovah did not spare the natural branches at all, he will not spare not you. Look at the goodness and severity of Jehovah on them which fell severity, but toward you goodness, if you continue in his goodness. I am a witness. All the Jews who died at the hands of Christians, they are all witnesses. We are witnesses together that they did not continue in his goodness. Therefore, they also will be cut off, just like the Jews of Jerusalem in the days of Yehoshua were cut off. And they will no longer abide in unbelief, and they will be grafted in, for Jehovah is able to graft them in again. If you were cut out of the olive tree which is wild by nature, and you were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more that shall these, which are natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that partial blindness happened to Israel until the time of the Gentiles comes in. It says the fullness of the Gentiles be come in, but if you read Luke 21, it says the time of the Gentiles comes to the end. That's what it says. And what happens next? What happens when the time of the Gentiles comes to them? What happens when they start firing nukes at each other? And so all Israel shall be saved, because it is written, there shall come out of Zion, not Rome, the deliverer, who shall turn unholiness from Jacob, because this is my covenant unto them when I shall take away their sins. Concerning the gospel, they might be enemies, O Roman, but concerning the election, they are the beloved, for the patriarchs' sakes, because the gifts and the calling of Jehovah cannot be changed. And because the promise written in Ezekiel 37 cannot be changed. Let us go to Hosea. We'll go to Hosea and Jeremiah 3:16. All right? So let's go to Hosea. I believe I'll start in maybe chapter 1. Where are you? There you are. And by the way, Hosea means salvation. Now, the beginning of the word of Jehovah by Hosea. And Jehovah said to Hosea, go take unto you a wife of whoredom and the children of whoredom, for the land has committed great whoredom, departing from Jehovah. So he went and took Gomer. Interestingly enough, Gomer is also another word for German. But Gomer is the father of Ashkenaz, where the Germans came from. Also the father of Riphith, where the Celts and the Gauls came from. And Togarmah, which is the far, 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 far north. Gog and Magog. Now, but this is the Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim. But I find it interesting. We'll just leave that alone, because that's what's intended. You can only make of it what registers in your head, because there is no more explanation of this here. Which conceived and bare him a son, and Jehovah said unto him, call his name Yisrael. It's Israel. Call his name Israel. For yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Israel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. Why? Because of Ahab and Jezebel. And it shall come to pass at that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Israel. And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And Jehovah said unto her, make sure it does not say Jehovah. It just says Omar. You see? Call her name Loruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. That's the Bill of Divorcement. But I will have mercy upon the house of Yehudah, and will save them by Jehovah Elohim, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. So he outlines it very carefully. But that's not the end, folks. Now when she had weaned Lo-Ruhamah, she conceived and bare a son, then proclaim his name Loami. For you are, it says, it doesn't say you are not my people, and I will not, it doesn't say that. In fact, it just says, we'll just see what Loami says. Oh, not my people. Okay. So Israel was no longer his people, the lost 10 tribes. Just like it said in Jeremiah. Okay? Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered, and it shall come to pass that in the place you will say unto them, where you said unto them, you are not my people, you shall say unto them, you are the sons of the living Elohim. Because he's going to gather him back from the four winds. And where we read in Ezekiel 37, you have to apply it to Matthew 24, and you have to apply it to Luke 21, where he says he's going to gather the elect from the four winds, from the four corners of the earth. You cannot use the words of the disciples without the words of the prophets. At that time it will be said unto you, you are the sons of the living Elohim. Then the children of Yehudah, the two sticks, and the children of Israel will be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land of the Gentiles, for great shall be the day of Israel. Now, we still have not answered what happened to the people of Israel. Here we go. We got to go to Hosea 11. We'll see where they're coming from. Ephraim, the leader of the 10 tribes. Verse 10, they will walk following Jehovah when he roars like a lion. When he roars, then the children of Ephraim will come trembling from where? It says the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, from the west. But not only from the west, all right? The biggest part will be from the west, but they will also be coming from Egypt, North Africa, and from Assyria. That would be the area of Iraq and parts of Iran and Syria. My mother has a direct line going to Syria on her maternal side. My mother's mother, her mother's mother, her mother's mother. It is by 4-to-1 margin. Greater chance of being Syrian than European. From Assyria. Now I know Syria is not Assyria, but they did get conjoined. In other words, how do I say this? There are a lot of Arameans in Iraq, and that's from the land, so out of the land of Assyria. So we're not talking about Assyrians here, but out of that land of the Assyrian Empire. See. Now let us look at Ephraim. What is he? Is he pure-blooded? Is he a half-breed? What is he? All right. Cake. Half. Oh, what was that? Come on. Baked or half turned. Where is it? Okay. I'll have to do it exactly. Ephraim is a cake half turned. Right here, Hosea 7 and verse 8. Ephraim has done what? He mingled himself. He mixed himself among the Gentiles, or among the people. Ephraim is a cake turned or overturned. Strangers have devoured his strength, and he knows it not. All right. So it says he has mixed himself among the people, which means among the Gentiles. Now let us look at another one in Yoel. So we're going to try to solve this puzzle the best way we can, so we know where the lost tribes of Israel are. So we know he's going to be coming from the sea, Mediterranean Sea, but also from Assyria and from North Africa, Egypt. All right. So Yoel 3. I will gather the Gentiles and will bring them down into the valley of judgment. It should be judgment, Jehovah judges. And will judge them, not plead, judge them for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the Gentiles and parted my land. Now he says right here, what have you to do with me, Tyre, Zidon, and the coast of Peleshet? Peleshet would be Gaza. Will you render unto me a recompense? If you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head, because you have taken my gold and my silver and carried them into your temples, my goodly things, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem you have sold to the Greeks. So the house of Judah was sold to the Greeks. Antiochus, anyone? Now, that's the Mediterranean Sea, is it not? Yes, it is. So Israel, the lost tribes of Israel, went in the same place that the Jews went. Want more proof? I'll give you more proof. But you saw it. You saw Hosea 11. You saw from the yam is the Mediterranean Sea. Okay? You sold to the Greeks. So they went the same direction. Now here's icing on the cake. Jeremiah 3. Invitation to repentance here. Backsliding Israel has justified herself more than treacherous Judah. All right. Go and proclaim these words to the north. That would be to the house of Israel, and say, "Return, you backsliding Israel," says Jehovah. And face to fall upon you. I am merciful, says Jehovah, and I will not keep my anger forever. Just acknowledge your iniquity, and you have transgressed against Jehovah Elohim, and you have scattered your ways to the strangers under every green tree, and you have not obeyed my voice, says Jehovah. And he goes on and on and on. But let's go here. Verse 16, it shall come to pass that when they are multiplied and increased in the land in those days, says Jehovah, they shall no more say the ark of the covenant. It will no longer come into their mind. So, folks, just stop talking about the ark of the covenant. Neither shall it come into their mind, neither shall they remember it any more. Neither shall they visit, nor shall they have anything to do with it. But at that time they will call Jerusalem the throne of Jehovah, and all the Goyim shall be gathered unto it, to the name of Jehovah, to Jerusalem. Neither shall they walk any more after the imagination of the evil of their heart. In those days the house of Israel shall walk with the house of Yehuda shall walk with the house of Israel together. And they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given them for inheritance unto your fathers. Now, north, west, and south. They're going to come together. It means most of them are living in the same lands. So just as Yehuda, can be found in the land of Assyria in the Middle East, in North Africa, Egypt, in the Mediterranean Sea and beyond, that's exactly where the lost house of Israel is. Now, today, let's use our thinking caps for a second. Where are the let me rephrase that. Where are the majority of Jews today, of the house of Judah, of the house of Yehuda? Where are they? They are in the United States of America. So, if they're going to walk together out of the land of the north, Mediterranean Sea and north, and the vast majority of the Jews have been chased to the ends of the earth, being the Americas, that is where the lost house of Israel, the people of the lost house of Israel are located as well. Now, do I know who they are? No, neither do you. You do not know who the lost house of Israel, who the people of the lost house of Israel are. Why can you not know? Because up until the day of Israel, they will not be known. You will not know them. I will not know who they are. Because of the Bill of Divorcement. They are still Gentiles. Which is why we can never assume that our Israel identity is going to save us. According to, I know that I have roots among the Jews, okay? This is no question. But I know that under Jewish law as currently, I'm a Gentile. So I have to approach this the way Ruth approached this. I have to be grafted in among the branches of Israel. And joining the church is not being grafted in among the branches of Israel. I prove to you that the church has utterly and resoundingly rejected Jehovah and blasphemed his name, just like ancient Israel did. And because the church has done this, because Christianity has done this, they're going to face the same fate that ancient Israel did. But ancient Israel, it was promised that he would bring them back. The Gentiles, the sole reason, we just read what the sole reason was for Yehoshua to be a light to the Gentiles. For Israel, it was the promises to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. For the Gentiles, it was not. I don't think I need to make it any more clear. All right, I think I've done enough for today.